Chairman Pickett, will you lead us, please, sir?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mayor has asked if anyone is wishing to speak from the public. You have 3 minutes. So I have Mr. Rooney.
And I do make sure.
I
Yes,
have
sir, you
Mr.
bet.
Scott White.
And we do ask that we do have 5 speakers and that we have courtesy for everybody, and we do stay to the 3 minutes, please.
Good morning, members of the board. Happy New Year. I'm Scott White with Paso Bicycle Pedestrian Coalition, and after listening to part of the training this morning, one of the things I'd like to remind everybody of is this past year there was a bit of a squabble over some of the TAP funding, and so what I'd encourage this board to do is revisit what the state is doing with this money, because right now the state, under the FAST Act, still has the right to sweep half of the TAP Transportation Alternative Programming funding before it even gets to the MPO level. That means where we were coming up short looking for funding for the variety of projects, we could have had twice that funding if the state hadn't taken that money for other projects. So we know that there's a lot of interest in more transit, more walking, more biking. So I simply ask that the board make a resolution, pass it along to the state. Please let you, the MPO, make a decision on this money, because we need to use it here in this region. Secondly, we're also coming up to the 2016 edition of the Texas Trails and Active Transportation Conference. It's going to be held March 9th to 11th. If you're interested in that sort of thing, please talk to me and I'll get you connected with the information. But it's a great, wonderful source of information for anything related to active transportation. And again, that's all the stuff that we're doing with a lot of the TAP projects. So thank you very much, and again, Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. White. And Mr. White, for point of, it was not a squabble, it was a difference of opinion.
The next person I have is, and I believe it's Hilda Valle. Okay.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak today on behalf of the Chamizal community. My name is Hilda Villegas, and I'm a concerned parent of a student that attends Bell Elementary. And today I want to point out that we're facing a contamination problem due to the trucks that do travel through Paisano. We are demanding that those trucks stop entering through Paisano and onto the Free Bridge. Also, they do go through Piedra Street, which is Bell Elementary is located on Piedras, and during the time that the students come out, they don't respect any of the traffic signs. So it does pose a public and safety health hazard. So like I stated before, we would like for those trucks to stop traveling through Paisano and onto the Free Bridge. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, and Happy New Year to you. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, if I could just respond.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Nyland.
First of all, thank you very much for being here today. We've tried to work with the neighborhood. The Texas Department of Transportation, Mr. Bielik is sitting down there. We have done what we can when it comes to at Paisano, both at Rayner and Piedras, to put those bump outs to try and reduce the amount of truck traffic that goes and uses your neighborhood as a shortcut to get to I-10. It is absolutely an injustice issue. It's one in which it's not safe for your kids. We're working on that. We did just make all those improvements to Rayner Rainer Street, and we've seen a reduction there. I do agree with you, Piedras, we need to revisit and see what additionally we can add as a resource to really try and taper that commercial traffic that's not supposed to be in your neighborhood. So, Mr. Bielik, I know you're down there. I really appreciate you being here this morning. If you could work with our office to maybe revisit the issue and see if we need additional bump outs or what we could possibly do to reduce the truck traffic in the area, I would really appreciate it. And thank you for being here today as an advocate for the neighborhood. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Representative Nyland. But I also want to state that on Paisano, they literally just stand there for periods of, like long periods of time. Last night, I actually, we're talking about from 3:30, so forth, and we do have the Boy High School right there located. So we're seeing that all those fumes from the diesel are being expelled from the trucks, and they're just going up in the air. And
Yeah.
it's right there next to the national park, which is the Chamizal.
And I absolutely agree with you. One of the things that we're trying to do to address that issue is the mayor's office and our office have worked very closely with the mayor's office in Juarez. We're putting the X-ray machine at the bridge of Zaragoza, and what we're hoping to do is try to reroute a lot of that commercial traffic to Zaragoza once that infrastructure is there. It's amazing that when the Pope comes to visit, we can limit the commercial traffic, but for people like you on an average daily basis, we can't do it. And so we're working very closely with not only the government in Juarez, but also the mayor's office here to see what we possibly can to reroute as much of that commercial traffic as possible. So, but we're aware of it, but the more advocacy we can get on behalf of you and the neighborhood is so very helpful. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. And I do invite you to go even at night. Yesterday
Yes,
at
ma'am.
7,
Yes.
they were still there all the way to Whataburger.
Right.
And there's even Sun Metro Public Transportation. They have to accommodate certain routes
Right.
just because those trucks are there and they can't drop off any of the residents
I
that
agree.
need to get to their homes.
I
So
agree. And
I
I've
invite
begged
you to
for
go and
I've begged for the last 4 years for us to please reroute as much of that commercial traffic as we possibly can. It seems like, some people can make it happen, some people can't, but we're trying.
okay. Well, thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for your time.
The Pope can.
Next, we have Guillermo Glenn. Okay.
Go ahead.
Item 10 is a report. Buenos días. Feliz Año Nuevo. We're very concerned in the Chamizal neighborhood with contamination by these diesel trucks, burning low-grade diesel from Juarez, and they seem to be above the law. We've consulted with, we've talked to the police. They say they get a lot of complaints, but they really are understaffed and they cannot control the trucks there. But this new I-10 Connect doesn't do anything to eliminate that problem. And we were hoping that with those plans that perhaps something would be done to eliminate the trucks. We feel that a very easy solution would be to prevent trucks entering from Paisano onto the bridge and use it only for cars. We blocked the trucks from going onto the bridge the last 2 days, and the people in the cars were very happy to go straight and not have to mix in with the big trucks. So we don't know where all that. We feel that all the solutions, alternative possible, have not been explored. Because why does all the traffic have to go through the 4 barrios, San Juan, Chamizal, Segundo, and Chihuahuita? That's not, our community should not have to handle all the traffic, and the I-10 Connect is going to bring us more traffic to the area. They're saying, well, it's going to alleviate and make it more mobile, but we're still to see that. But one of the things we're really concerned about is how can that I-10 connect in any way eliminate those trucks from going from Paisano onto the bridge. That would really help our community. The trucks then would not go through Piedras. They would not go through our community. And I really don't see why, with all the power here in this room, in this board, why that might not be possible. Under this I-10 Connect, for instance, you're changing lanes, you're adding new ramps, you have there's a lot of power included in that. You can take over land if you want to. So why can't you just stop the trucks from going in through Paisano? I appreciate your listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, just so that you know, that dialogue is occurring. We are working with the Texas Department of Transportation, the city manager's office, and the mayor's office right now. Once the Loop 375 is complete and you have some of these new ingress and egresses with the I-10 Connect project, we might be able to reroute some of the commercial traffic. As I mentioned to the woman prior to you, another option is to try and reroute some of the commercial traffic to Zaragoza once the infrastructure is there. So just so that you know, I appreciate your advocacy today, but that dialogue is occurring. I want to reassure you of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The maquilas, they're $1 billion industry, paying low wages in Mexico. They should be able to build their own holding pen on the Mexican side or on this side that doesn't interfere with our community. Our community should not have to shoulder that responsibility when they're making billions of dollars in Mexico, 80 transnational companies. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, I have Jesus Luna.
Good morning, everybody.
Good
My
morning,
name is
Mr.
Jesus Luna, and I'm a leader, and I represent the community at Westway. Westway is on County of El Paso. For the last 26 years, the community of Westway has been working to change the community. Because on the 26 years ago, we had a big problem without water, without all the services, all the utilities. And now, the reason that I'm here is because we demand one new entry and exit for Westway. Because on Westway, we live around 3,500 people. And we have only one entry, one exit. And on 1994, 1996, one PVC company that was about 200 yards close to the bridge on the I-10 was burned. And the sheriff closed the bridge. Any time that there are some problem like that, the sheriff closed the bridge. Nobody can go out, can go in. So it's important, it's necessary that we need another new entry and exit for Westway. Another thing is we need to a community center for adults. And another thing that we are talking with county, with Mr. Moody, with Transportation Department, we need to have payment on the North Desert. This close to the ArcelorMittal, is across from the I-10. So I expect that to have the support for all of you, to have those issues, those demands. I have two people that they live on the North Desert, and they have there lives about 27 families, and we cannot walk on the streets because there's just the holes and families of these families, the relatives of these families cannot go into that street on like North Desert, Southwood, and Applewood. That's important that I ask for your support for everybody. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And last, I have Mr. John Iberg.
Buenos dias, good morning. My name is John Iberg, aka Juanito Iberg, aka Biker John. I have over 40 years bicycling experience, 100,000 miles, 106,000 kilometers, both commuting and touring. And over Thanksgiving break, I pedaled the eastern portion of the Fort Hancock Las Cruces I-10 bicycle bypass that I'm proposing. And I met an individual who was pedaling from Pensacola to San Diego. And I met him on Texas 20, close to Tornillo. And he had no idea where to go and how to get there. And he's so grateful he met me because I know exactly where to go and how to get there on a bicycle. And I gave him ample information. I continued my route of going on through Fort Hancock, up over near Reform up, San Agustin, Anapra, Casa de Adobe, boundary marker number 1, and then out through Santa Teresa and Sunland Park. It is, and I met on, just coming up onto Paisano, I met Juan Francisco Dominguez, who is pedaling from Ushuaia, Tierra del Fuego to Alaska, and he just happens to be going there, and he needed to know where to go. I provided him that, I gave him a great deal of assistance. He spent his Christmas in Monterrey, Mexico. But what I am saying, and I've spoken with most of you all the time, many of you are familiar with me, that I'm proposing this Fort Hancock Las Cruces I-10 bicycle bypass. I have the map. You all have the map. I did not get here quickly enough to get it to you. It's the same map that I've had out here. I strongly encourage you to designate this as a bicycle route. Bicycles do not need to be on Interstate 10 between Fort Hancock and Las Cruces. I have pedaled it, not the New Mexico portion, which is the safety corridor, and it's illegal for bicycles to go on that portion from El Paso up to Las Cruces. But I pedaled the I-10 section from all of it into El Paso, and it's unacceptable for bicycling. So bicycles need to be routed down at Fort Hancock onto Texas 20 to 528 Socorro Road Mission Trail, going through San Eli, and then on the Mission Trail, continuing on the Mission Trail into El Paso, going on to the routes that we have already, Delta, Yarborough, Delta, and then North Loop, and then going on into Paisano. Paisano is under construction. It was a little bit hazardous when I pedaled it, but I have a lot of experience and I don't have any problem taking a lane. So it's very important that we designate this route. Almost 40 years ago, I was pedaling in California, Caltrans, which is now called CalDOT, had very specific route designations on the road, on signs, posting where bicycles may go and bicycles may not go. TxDOT can do the same thing. So can New Mexico DOT.
Can you give us your final thoughts, please, sir?
Yes, sir.
Your 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. I urge you to designate this route for bicycles, and I appreciate your consideration. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, sir. And before you, Mr. Medina, before you go, I just do want to assure that the prior speakers we were talking with, and Ms. Nyland kind of talked about a little bit, that Mayor Serrano and I did go to Washington and secure that we were able to get a second X-ray machine, and it's at the Saragossa Bridge, and they built the facility, and that will alleviate a lot of the traffic, and we'll continue to work with Waters because that's going to be the key to being able to do that. And we got a great working relationship with the office there in Waters, and once we get that new x-ray machine and we get that up and running 100%, that will make a huge difference. And that's the reason we did that, to make sure that, and that was one of the first things when I took office that Ms. Nyland was very concerned with and asked me to see what we could do to make sure we got that going. And Mayor Serrano was worked really hard to get that accomplished for us, and it should be moving forward pretty quick. So thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I know that this is a long-term project, and I know that y'all have worked really hard. I guess I'm just curious, do you have like a potential timeline? Like,
It
is
should be any day now, and that's what I said. And I'll bring that back next month, a total report. But the facility was supposed to have been finished right before the Christmas holiday, and then get the x-ray machine in there. So second x-ray machine in the area was very essential, and like I said, Mayor Serrano Waters was so essential of making sure we got that accomplished and done. So if he was here, we'd thank him, but it was really a lot of good teamwork together as when we went to Washington. So
Thank you.
thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning to everybody. Again,
And I'd like to thank you for starting early on the training today. Chairman Pickett did inform us it was at 8:30, but
very well.
Your nose is growing, Mayor.
no, we do apologize for being late. Chairman Pickett told us it was 8 o'clock, and I promptly corrected him and told him it was 8:30. So we apologize for being late.
So let's go ahead and start with item number 1, and it's Executive Director's Report on Training Requirements.
Good morning, board members. Mike Mann with the Paso EPMPO. As part of the continuous education program is that every member that serves on an MPO-sanctioned committee is required to do 5 hours of training within the first 90 days. So essentially is that we had the first training today. We're going to have 2 other ones within February and March. We're also going to send out an email to the policy board members along with TPAC members. We're looking at having a 3-hour training either on March 3rd or March 4th. So essentially, we will want some consensus on that date. So essentially, by the time we hit the 90-day requirement, there'll be 6 hours afforded to the policy board members along with any other member that sits on the committee. Again, to reiterate is that the idea here is to be flexible with training, and so we'll honor training by way of either in person or by WebEx. And some of that training is any training that is provided by the Federal Highway Administration, the Federal Transit Administration, or any other associated national transportation agency that affords that training. So if there's any doubt, please let me know, and certainly I will provide any guidance or comments on that type of training. Yes, ma'am.
You gave us 45 minutes of training today.
No, it was an hour.
It was an hour. It was 45 minutes. I was here at 8. I was here at 8, Mayor. Does that count as an hour, or does that count as 45 minutes?
As long as we pass the 30-minute mark, you know, we're going to
It'll
round
count
it
as an
out.
hour.
Right, because we afford the opportunity for a discussion with the membership. And so again, the idea is if we could maximize the participation, it would certainly go all the way up to an hour.
Okay, so it qualifies as an hour.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
and you'll give us that training schedule later on?
Yes, so for example, is that we are working with our FHWA partner, and so they will be coming down either in February or March to provide a training. So again, we'll hear from them beforehand, but we're also going to bring training with regard to the environmental process within the right before the policy board. The 3-hour training is going to be a introduction, again, the MPO processes and the expectation. So the 3-hour training will be led by me and staff.
Mike, is there any possibility of it being streamed and then recorded so that someone that maybe can't be there can go back and say, you know what, I viewed the tape, or I'm watching it online, as long as maybe they sign on or something? Because
That's up
not
to you.
everyone, I mean, obviously a whole day for everyone to be there at the same time
I think we
is
can provide
difficult.
that flexibility. Yes, ma'am.
And all these meetings are recorded, and someone can come back and request to watch. For example, was the training recorded?
No.
No.
No?
No. Yes, sir.
Our local government staff has volunteered to come in and do a whole training session for the before the board on the rules, regulations, requirements for local government, and they'll do that in February if you want.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
If anybody have questions, comments? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mike, what kind of training, if we do get training at other places for planning, what kind of training are we talking? Does it have to be related to MPOs? Does it have to be related to planning, roads? Does it, I mean, what constitutes an hour of training if you don't do any training that you offer?
So so for example, I'll give you, I attended the Texas Transportation Forum. And so certainly it's a day and a half of meetings and sessions, so something like that would certainly qualify, as long as it's transportation. I mean, if it's air quality, for example, that's another thing that we would honor. So again, anything that the federal partners provide, the National Highway Institute, the National Transit Institute, or if you have a specific training that you attend, as long as I understand what you're doing, if it's transportation related, so for example, the airport, if there's anybody that attends that type of conference or your committees or what have you, is that we will honor that, because that's all related.
And it has to be done within the first 90 days of the calendar year?
Yes, in accordance to the bylaws, what happens if you don't meet the 5 hours, you lose your vote until you complete the 5 hours. Yes, ma'am.
And you're tracking our 5-hour trainings, and you'll notify us, like, when, I don't know when the 90 days, that's end of March?
End of March.
It'll be the end of March, yes.
And so you'll let us know maybe ahead of time, like, you're at 2 hours, you need 3 more hours, and,
We'll provide sufficient warnings.
sorry, just not to give you more work.
No, that's fine. No,
But to
we
help
will
us be
alert
accountable.
everybody in the event if they have, if they're missing training. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mike. I was on a recent flight between El Paso and Austin with Chairman Pickett, and he talked to me at least for an hour and a half about transportation. Can I submit that for qualifying credit?
So if he'll sign mine, I'll sign his. Is that what it is?
Right,
Read this, so
right.
I did read it and I responded to him.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Costa was over an hour and a half, so that qualifies for 2 hours.
So, you know, we've set up specialized training on a monthly basis with your office. Would that qualify? Or
Yes.
is-
So just to remind everybody is that I am available to any board member if you need training. And so again, the extension is there. If I need to go to your organization to make a presentation, that will also count. And so I have done that for some of the membership over the last year.
Couple lunches, you're good to go. Enchilada night.
Yeah, with Mike.
I think what Jay was asking, I know Jay was at a conference in Houston prior to the first of the year. If Mr. Banashek goes to one of those, he could offer that information to you and you can kind of make a decision on whether or not that qualifies, because there's a lot of people that go to professional things.
Right.
As county commissioners, city councilmen,
Right.
mayors, if it's transportation related.
Right.
If they get that information to you, tell you where they're going, give them the information of who's putting it on, you can make a determination whether that
Yes.
qualifies or not.
And again, is that the MPO, you know, the spectrum of the MPO is very broad. We deal with demography, we deal with economics, we deal with all forms of transportation. So it really is very flexible in its relationship to the credits that you could receive for the training.
And I think to Chairman Pickett's point is, this is, when we came up with this originally, when we talked about making sure we had the training, it wasn't so you didn't get the training, is because process and procedures and policies change so often that it's important that we all kind of understand what's going on and understand the policy. So that was the reason why last year we kind of implemented this, to make sure that we did understand all the changes, as it changes on, seems almost like on a daily basis, so.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Some of us are on state committees, and exactly what you were talking about earlier about planning for schools, that was a big discussion. I'm on the Planning and Development Committee for the Texas Municipal League, and one of the issues that every city had in Texas was schools are built out nowhere, and then the school district expects the municipalities to build the infrastructure. So that was a big issue, but would something like that qualify?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
because not only is it a land use component, it's also a transportation, so you have direct and indirect consequences.
And what would you need for?
I would just need a demonstration that you attended,
Okay,
the meeting, the conference.
okay, all right, thank you.
So I would ask
Well, yeah.
that you send me an email with the date that you attend, the training, the conference, etc., the name of the conference, and then how many hours it was.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item is to approve the minutes for the November 20th, 2015 Transportation Policy Board meeting.
Do I hear a motion? A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Item number 3 is to amend the federal fiscal year 2016-2017 Unified Planning Work Program to program $500,000 of Category 12 Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality funds for the El Paso County Regional Transit Feasibility Study under Task 5, Special Studies as Subtask 5.2.
Good morning, Christina Stokes for MPO staff.
Good morning.
We are, the MPO is requesting approval from the Transportation Policy Board to amend the federal fiscal year 2016-2017 UPWP to program the subtask 5.2 El Paso County Regional Transit Feasibility Study under Task 5 Special Studies, which is broken down here for you. It's a total of 500,000 Category 12 congestion mitigation and air quality funds that consists of 400 of the funding amount of Category 12 and a local match of 100,000. This project was approved by the board at its July 17th meeting, and this inclusion into the UPWP will allow TxDOT to begin a non-construction funding agreement.
Any discussion?
So-
Make a motion to approve?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is item number 4, and it is to approve the recommendation from the Transportation Project Advisory Committee to amend the Horizon 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the Horizon 2015-18 Transportation Improvement Program, to reprogram the following projects from fiscal year 2015 to 2016, and that would be item A, Bluetooth weight systems at Paso del Norte Port of Entry, MPO ID number C030X, CSJ number 0924-06459, using 120,000 of congestion mitigation air quality funds. And then item number 4, Bluetooth weight systems at Stanton Port of Entry, MPO ID number C031X, CSJ number 0924-06458, using 120,000 of CMAQ funds as well.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chairman and TPB Board. Real quickly on this item, the delay on the reason for getting it moved from 2015 to 2016 was a delay in getting the funding agreement executed. This had construction and non-construction components to the project, which caused a little bit of a delay in getting the, if you will, the funding agreement executed. And so those have been resolved, and we're back on track for the 2016. So we recommend it to you for approval.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Next item is number 5, and that's to approve the recommendation from the Transportation Project Advisory Committee to approve the December 2015 Project Readiness Report to include project amendments for the Horizon 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and the Horizon 2015 Transportation Improvement Program. Item number A is to reprogram the East Lake Safe Routes to School project, MPO ID number E402X, CSJ number 092406-514 from fiscal year 2016 to 2017, using $1,056,898 of Category 9 Transportation Alternatives Program funds and $85,000 of Category 3 Local Contribution. Then we have item number B, and that's deprogram the Van Pool project fiscal year 2016, MPO ID number T078X, CSJ number 485, using 600,000 of Category 5 CMAQ funds in fiscal year 2016 as requested by the County of El Paso. And item C, deprogram the Edgemere RC Pro Road Roundabout, MPO ID number P458X, CSJ number 092406-505, using 900,000 of Category 5 CMAQ funds in fiscal year 2017.
There are 4 votes we need here, to be honest with you. We need one for each A, B, and C, and then an overall vote for the item number 5, okay? The first one, just to give you a little bit of information on the first reprogramming component of this one, this is to better coordinate the work with the Darrington Road work that's also underway. And we want to make sure that we don't install something that later has to be pulled out because it's getting in the way of the Darrington Road. So we recommend that one for your approval to reprogram it from 16 to 17. The deprogramming of item number B is related to actually a very good job done by the County of El Paso with a new vendor and being able to reduce overhead costs, which have freed up funds then within existing monies, which are allowing them to kind of continue the program and save this MPO money. And so this money will go back into the pool. So that's item number B. Item number C is to deprogram Edgemere RC Pole Roundabout.
You want to take one at a time? Which one?
Can I have a motion for item 5A?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
May I have a motion for 5B?
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed?
And may I have a motion to approve item 5C?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, that was a weak eye. Any opposed? Thank you.
And then I'd like a motion to approve number 5 as a whole with all of the,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
One more item for you.
item number 6, and that's approve the recommendation from the Transportation Project Advisory Committee to amend the Horizon 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and the Horizon 2015-2018 Transportation Improvement Program to program the Zaragoza Port of Entry Pan American Drive and Wind Road Project, MPO ID number A524X PE2, CSJ number 092406-418, with additional preliminary engineering funds in fiscal year 2016, using 269,252 of Category 10 Coordinated Border Infrastructure, 214,930 of Category 12 CMAQ funds, $425,701 of Category 12 Surface Transportation Program funds, bringing a total for the preliminary engineering being $1,809,883.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7 is approve modifications to the El Paso MPO Federal Transit Administration 5310 Program Management Plan.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members. Efren Mesa with the El Paso MPO. This is basically an amendment that's more of a revision made to the FTA Section 5310 Program Management Plan that the MPO has in regards to managing its program for 5310 activities. And the changes are basically more or less details in regards to procurement and reimbursement processes that the subrecipients are required to follow when they receive 5310 awards. Basically, it just spells out a little bit more in detail the type of reimbursement process that they need to go through, and it's just so that this way the board recognizes that those changes have been made to this document and for its approval. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So these new guidelines, you're going to provide training to the ones that are working on these reimbursement forms?
That's a great question. We will be having a public meeting for informational purposes regarding the 5310 awards and awardees. That'll be on February 4th, and I'll go over it in item, I believe it's item number 9 or 10. But we
So-
will be giving some kind of a meeting, so this way anybody who's interested can get information regarding that. And then, of course, we welcome anybody's invite in regards to going to their agencies and letting them know in detail what their requirements are.
So the answer is yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Move to approve.
Second.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 8 is approved the request to excuse absent Transportation Policy Board members from the meeting. And I received requests from Texas State Representative Cesar Blanco, County Judge Veronica Escobar, County Commissioner from Doña Ana, David Garcia, New Mexico Representative Belquin Gomez, Mayor Jesus Reese from City of Socorro, Texas State Senator Jose Rodriguez, and Texas State Representative Marisa Marquez. I ask for a motion to
A
approve.
motion? A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Next, we have reports. And number 9 is the status report of the Federal Transit Administration 5310 El Paso Urbanized Area Fiscal Year 2015 request for proposals.
Good morning once again, Efren Mesa with the El Paso MPO. We will be having release for the request for proposals regarding Section 5310, FTA Section 5310. And this particular fund is in regards to enhanced mobility for seniors and individuals with disabilities. The amount that was recorded within the TPB packet was an error by a few dollars. It actually will be $540,334. This RFP will begin this coming Sunday, January 24th, 2016. Submittals will be due in the offices, at the MPO offices at 5 p.m. on March 11th, 2016. This gives a little more than 45 calendar days for agencies to provide any kind of submittals and ask any questions. After that, we will be heading to the TPAC on its February 3rd meeting to ask that for volunteers to man a TPAC ad hoc committee, which looks and reviews at the particular submittals and then gives recommendations to the TPAC in regards for award. This particular schedule will run between March 14th and the 23rd when they will meet to review those. The TPAC on its April 6th meeting will then be asked to look at the recommendations made by the ad hoc committee, review them, and then make their recommendations to the Transportation Policy Board for their approval of the award. We are looking forward to bringing the submittals and the recommendations by the TPAC to the board on April 22nd for their approval, and as well as an amendment to the particular transportation improvement program, and as well as move forward to make that amendment into the state transportation improvement program. That will all be happening on April 22nd, hopefully. We're looking at bringing it to the board at that particular time. And then during the last few days of April and May, we'll be preparing all the forms and what have you for installing that particular amendment into the STIP, and also applying the application into FTA's electronic management system. We are going to be releasing the request for proposals in the newspaper. There's an example of what the ad will look like this Sunday, along with the amount that's available and any information regarding where they can get more information for the RFP itself. Also announcing, we will be having a informational meeting regarding this particular grant on February 4th here at the MPO boardroom between the hours of 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. on February 4th. This is going to provide a forum for questions regarding the RFP process, any requirements and regulations regarding 5310, and any requirements for reimbursements and auditing of the subrecipients themselves. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Chairman Pickett?
On the difference between capital and operating assistance, is there a breakdown? Is there a limit on either one of those?
Great question. Yes, there is. Right now, in regards to capital, 53% of the total amount that the urbanized area receives has to be used for capital. That's not a ceiling, but that's a minimum. So right now, for this amount, 330,204 must be used towards capital. The remaining 210,130 can be used for operations. But if nobody asks for operations or that amount for operations, it could be used towards capital as well.
So what is the length or the time frame of this RFP? How much time does this get us? How much service for disabled and elderly do we get for the 540,000? If that much can be spent on capital, somebody can come in and just buy buses. I mean, they have buses.
That's true.
But the operating assistance is actually probably more important to the community than buying buses.
That's correct. What it can be used for, it can be used for an amount of 3 years in programming for operations, that particular amount. However, there is also a clause where some capital funds can be used for operating if it is contracted out through the main subrecipient. So some capital funds may be used for operating as long as it's contracted out through the subrecipient.
One of the reasons I bring it up, there's a very controversial issue in Northeast Texas regarding a transit entity called TAPS. And so these are being looked at very, very closely. So during the RFP process, an entity will come in and be able to express what they're going to offer. I'm going back to the operating assistance again. Does this include the dialysis, or is that under the
Yes,
program?
and these programs could include dialysis transportation. Now, obviously, they can't really separate people from dialysis and other types of medical or even lifestyle type of transportation. But yes, this could follow through with dialysis type of transportation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, if I could just add a little bit to that. These funds are typically for funds, we have an operating service that we give people dialysis and stuff, but we only do it during a certain time of day. These funds are gonna be able to take people that out of our service time that typically wouldn't have any transportation, so some of these funds will take people for dialysis at odd hours of the day, in the early morning, late at night, and when we don't service. And so that's kind of this money, a lot of it is for service that we don't do or what can't provide, it takes over for that times. And typically at those time of days, there's nothing else but dialysis almost for doing some of these trips. And that's why we apply for Sun City to do it, or Project Amistad to do it for times that we can't do it. So.
Ms. Lambrana?
Thank you. I just have a question. I mean, in terms of on the website, you have all the specific criteria that is needed. I mean, in terms of what's eligible and what's not. And then does that include, is there a match required for this?
Yes, we will have all the material. Right now, there's actually material on there regarding the 5310 already, any regulations and requirements and all the criteria involved. The criteria review sheets will also be on the website as well, so that those who are applying can see what the TPAC ad hoc committee will be looking at in regards to reviewing the grant applications. And then your other question was in regards to some of the match. There is a match for capital. It can be from 80% to 20%, depending on what type of vehicle. It could also be from an 85 to 15 for a green type of vehicle. And then for operations, it's a strictly 50-50 type match.
Yes, sir.
Can developmental credits be used for the match on the capital expenditures on the buses?
Great question. Yes, those TDCs can be used for transportation development credits. Can be used.
And will that be part of the information that you put out? Because we still have a large balance of developmental credits that go unused.
Yes, and we can add some information because it's in the program management plan itself already, and we can also add some information in regards to how they can go about what the actual details are in terms of applying for those, which we've added in the application.
Right, and I guess just to add is that it is by policy that the MPO staff will meet with potential applicants to ensure that their application is robust. So at that time, we would inform them of all the information or all the opportunities for funding.
And in regards to that, we do take, WTIP actually looks at the proposals just before they come and submit them to the MPO, so that this way they can either provide some kind of support letter or what have you, and also look to see that these programs are also following through with their regional plan as well, which is required for 5310.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is report, item number 10, I-10 Connect project.
Mr. Bielik, Dr. Bielik?
Thank you. The I-10 Connect project.
Project is really a critical project. You heard me mention earlier about the need to reconstruct I-10, about completion of the GO-10 and the Border West Expressway projects. And you heard a lot of discussion about the Paisano US 54 intersection earlier. Well, you can't get from Border Highway to I-10 without crossing that intersection today. Either way, one of the main objectives of this project is to provide that direct connection to keep people from having to cross Paisano. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Swindell, who is with HDR and our consultant on the project. Last night, many of you know that there was a public meeting held, and he's going to give us a very quick synopsis of where we are.
Thanks, Bob. My name is Brian Swindell with HDR Engineering, and I wanted to give today a brief overview of the public meeting that we had last night and kind of an abbreviated version of it. And at the end, we have a video that we also showed at the public meeting that really kind of goes into some detail on what this project might look like in the future. Just push that right button there. The project includes a fairly large area right in the vicinity of the US 54 and I-10 interchange. And as Bob said, it really, some of the primary concerns is how we connect I-10 down to Loop 375, but also in relation to that are some other issues that we want to address as well. And north of I-10, the project really extends up to even north of Yandell because of some ramping and some congestion relief that we have on the north side that's associated with the project. So it really extends from Yandell all the way down to 375 and making the connections in between. The primary goals and objectives of the project include a number of things. One is to add that connectivity that Bob was talking about to make sure that we provide good connection from I-10 down to Loop 375, both east and west. As y'all are probably very well aware, there's really not a good way to get from I-10 down to 375 without using surface streets in order to do it. And so that's one of the things we're trying to resolve. The other thing we're working at is just generally easing congestion and improving mobility in the overall study area. So this includes other things other than just the US 54 and I-10 components. We're also looking at some of the operational improvements at Paisano and some of the other issues as well. Associated with this project in this area is the queuing into the port of entry, and it's an issue that we are taking a look at because it directly affects how we connect I-10 down to 375. One of the things that we kind of talk about a lot is keeping local trips on local roads and regional trips on regional roads, and this really helps put the trucks where they need to go and get them out of the residential area as much as possible. So it really provides that side benefit as well. We're always looking at making sure we're minimizing impacts to the environment as we go along. One of the big benefits of this project is it'll help improve mobility during planned I-10 reconstruction, but also reconstruction of other projects in the area as well by providing that link between the two. And then lastly, we want to take a look at, we don't want to just go in and start rebuilding everything. We want to look at maximizing what we have out there and using as much of the existing facilities as we can in order to make these connections. Part of the process is going through the environmental, and it starts with taking an overall environmental constraints consideration where we look at everything that's going on there, whether it be floodplains or parks or cemeteries. And there are a number of things in this area that we want to know where they are as we're starting to develop alternatives. And so the yellow line you see on the map here represents the study area. It's the area that we looked at. It's not the area of impact of the project, but it's the study area that we wanted to evaluate. When we started this project, we started off with 10 base alternatives. Through some modification of these alternatives, we ended up with 13 alternatives that we started the process off with. We narrowed these down to 8 alternatives because some of them did not really meet the overall purpose and need of the project. So we got them down to 8 alternatives to carry into the next steps of the project. And they basically could be divided up into 3 main categories. Direct connector options, which are relatively higher cost alternatives, slip ramp alternatives, which are really relatively low cost alternatives, and then a combination of those two. We held a number of workshops with community leaders, and we got a lot of good feedback from the community leaders. We applied that feedback, and we actually ended up developing a few more alternatives. So we ended up with a total of 11 alternatives to carry forward. These alternatives were screened based on traffic and mobility components, as well as next one, please. As well as environmental and then also engineering components as well, to look at how efficient these projects were in solving the problem. We put them through a matrix, and part of that matrix, the result of that matrix was 4 main alternatives that resulted alternatives 1, 5, 9, and 11. And these alternatives were the ones that we felt addressed the problems the best, had the least amount of impacts. And as we heard last night, we got a lot of applause because all 4 of these actually avoid the Lincoln Center building as well. So, next slide. So the next steps are really to take these alternatives, refine them, and evaluate them from the comments we received at the public meeting. We had about 125 participants. There were probably more than that, but that's how many signed in to the facility. And we had a lot of good feedback. So we want to take that feedback back, modify our alternatives, go through an operational analysis where we can look at solving some of those smaller issues like the Paisano operational issues and some other things, and go through another matrix evaluation where we narrow the alternatives down to the preferred alternative. Then we'll take that preferred alternative and carry that preferred alternative to the next public meeting scheduled sometime late spring, early summer, where we present the preferred alternative for additional comments and additional feedback, where we go back and refine that alternative, develop the environmental document, and head towards a public hearing sometime later on in the year or first part of next year. So with that, I want to show the video that really kind of shows you what these alternatives might look like. The video goes through all 4 of the alternatives that we're recommending to carry forward, and shows kind of an animation and a run through of what it might look like. And the traffic that's shown in this video is actually 2042 traffic, peak period 2042 traffic. So imagine yourself, 30 years in the future is really what we're looking at here. And as you can see from those alternatives, they all solve the problem a little bit differently. Some of them work a little bit better than others, but the primary goal of all those were to separate the port of entry traffic and the connection down to 375 traffic, so that the port of entry traffic's not blocking the connection down to 375. So with that, I'll take any questions that might be.
Yeah, but one point, let me emphasize, there's nothing we can do about the port of entry processing in that backup. So we just have to accept it, that it's there and try to work around it.
Okay, any questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Huh? Yes, sir? Mr. Costa has a question. 1 second, Mr. Rooney. Mr. Costa has a question about training.
All of these, all of these alternatives, actually, I can go back to that, but anyway. Any one of these, when you say you don't have any control over, how you get to the port of entry, but I think that's where we're having the problem, is with the port of entry on Paisano and the exit from 54. So.
Exactly. We don't have control over speeding up processing through the port of entry. We have to accept
Okay.
that.
But you have a connection so that.
Right, so we're.
That intersection that we have right now would go, all of that congestion would go away, because there would be a direct connect to the port of entry. I understand that it would maybe go all the way back to the freeway.
Whether it will all go away depends on the final alternative, its configuration, and a few other things. That's what Brian is going to be working on from here on out. The thing that you have to be careful of is that we run into some issues with, when you use federal funds on a project, you can't discriminate against classes of users.
Correct.
So we need to be very careful as to how we do it, and they're going to be looking at all the alternatives, how they can deal with the operational part of it. But the real problem is the port of entry processing. But how that magnifies itself through the system is what they're trying to alleviate, to minimize that effect through the regional system.
And I think, and that's why we're looking at, when we talk about port of entries, we're so landlocked in everyone except the Saragossa Bridge, and that's why we're looking at, looking over there, see what we can do to relieve a lot of the traffic over there, so, to that point.
Can we get a copy of that presentation?
Sure.
Yeah, and all the public meeting materials that we presented last night will be on the website as well, shortly as well, but we can provide them also.
But the top 4 choices, none of them require the demolition of Lincoln Center?
That's
Right.
correct.
That's good news.
Thank you. Thank you again. Yes, sir. Mr. Rooney.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Bielik, thank your staff. I like the video of that, so you get a good view of what's going on. Will the comments that were provided last night in public comment be available and be visible for the community to see? Initially, when this issue came up, it was the Lincoln Center, and as you could see today, and it was reported in the newspaper this morning, we have the problem of pollution, the diesel, and also now eminent domain. So we may as well get these things out in the public now and have the discussion. My suspicion is that to do this, and this is an issue that goes back a long time ago, trying to have connectivity between I-10 and the border highway, is I don't think there's any good option. Somebody is probably going to be hurt. If they are, we need to start talking about it now. I thought one of the clever things that the city did was when that Saipan neighborhood was flooded out down near University Medical Center, those homes that were basically flooded and ruined, and then there was a place on the far east side, the city bought them out, but they didn't try and beat those neighbors out of You know, it's going to cost more if you relocate somebody now than you would pay for them, the home's actual worth. So the city was rather liberal in helping those folks relocate from a community area they've lived in and their families for a lifetime. So I want to commend the city on that. Representative Pickett, I also want to thank you for the chart you sent out showing where the traffic is through the center. I appreciate you and your staff keeping the community informed. Also, you gave one on what the funding projection, because of the prices of fuel dropping. Mr. Bielik, I want to commend you for your Channel 9 News Extra program. I enjoyed your easygoing Lake Wobblygon personality, the way you handle it. Maria Garcia always asks real good questions and tough ones at the most inopportune time. I thought the one on the trolley you handled very astutely. You said that's not a TxDOT project, it's a CRRMA. She tried to get you in the fight with Representative Pickett. And then the mayor on the project disconnects. I thought you were very collegiate and really tried to move everything along, not create a flap where one wasn't needed. So I want to commend you for your visit on Channel 7.
And in answer to your question, all of the written comments will be available at the district office. I'll see if we can scan them somehow and get them available electronically to share with anybody who.
And would you share it with the news media in case they want to report it too?
I like to make them make the request, so
Okay.
I could charge them to do that.
There's a couple. There's a gentleman behind you there, so they know what to do.
Thank you, Mr. Rooney. All right. Next item is 11, which is our monthly report and announcements. And we have the mayor, the new mayor of Town of Clint, Charles Gonzalez, has appointed Natasha Hernandez as the voting member. So we'd like to welcome you to the board. Thank you. And your first couple of votes were very good. We just that's why we didn't announce it till afterwards. Wanted to make sure. So, did a good job. And also on the X-ray machine that we talked about, I'm going to have a presentation from the city on this. Should be. I did get notified that it's been moved and it should go into operation in March. So next month we'll have a report from hopefully Matthew McElroy to give us a report on the status of it and be prepared, as it looks like it's going to be opening in March. And with that, I'd like to wish everybody a very happy new year, and nice to see everybody back this year.
And the last one, Mayor.
Pardon me? The last one?
Working on with Waters. The Pope is coming.
We all watched your interview last night, Mr. Costa. We're informed. You did a good job yesterday on your meeting. So, and I think that the city's been working very closely with the city of Juarez for the Pope, and for the city council meeting, we will announce some of the road closures and some of the things we're working with TxDOT and make sure. And we've not announced anything because we want to make sure that we have everything that we need. So the information we give is accurate, and also give people the flexibility as we move forward, because there'll be some changes even after we announce because of the flexibility of and how things keep changing. And I'll say it one last time, or probably one last time today, but one of the biggest things that the city of El Paso is responsible for is the safety of the Pope, and to work really close with the city of Juarez to make sure that we provide whatever they need, and we have a message that's the same as the region moves forward, and that's been very important, that we have a united message, as we're going to have a lot of media in the area. We're going to have people from all over the world, and for us to have a message that's united, it's very important. So we're working really close with that, and we're very excited about the Pope visit to our region. But again, the Pope's coming to Juarez, and our job is to assist Juarez to make this one of the best things that's ever happened within our region. So I thank you all. Yes, sir.
One final thing is that upon the conclusion of the policy board, we are also having a workshop for the Suburban Mobility Committee. You're all welcome to attend and receive extra credit in terms of training. So again, if you want to stay for that, you're all welcome.
And with that, we have a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Aye opposed? Nay.